Well, some of the trees came from the meeting we had just outside Carlisle.
When I first met you guys. Yeah.
Yes. And that was Sterling. But
Sterling.
This was just after we'd come down.
Oh, this
down
was
from
the second one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at one point I went outside and there was these amazing oak trees outside and the ground was just littered in acorns. And I thought, whoa, just started stuffing my pockets full.
Right.
You know? And when I came back, I put them in pots in the polytunnel.
Yeah, yeah.
And to my amazement, you know, a lot of them came
They
up.
sprouted,
Yeah.
okay.
So a lot of the people who were at that meeting have planted trees here, you know, so.
Not me.
Yet.
Yes, right. It sounds like it's overdue. Yeah. That, 2005 that was. It's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to be doing it.
It is. You've got to think about these things. You don't want to rush into it.
I wouldn't have wanted to do it at 19 years or 3 years. No, a nice round number. Yeah.
What were you doing?
Planting trees.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll give that
give that a tap down.
Yeah.
We composed this beautiful no-take zone in Lamlash Bay.
Totally.
It's like, harmony.
Yeah. I remember when you first met us, you thought basically, these guys are nutters.
Oh. I wouldn't go that far.
Everybody else is scientists and these guys are nutters.
I think...
And you were dead right.
No, well, then that's what you need sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'll be honest, like, I think my overwhelming first impression was your enthusiasm.
Okay.
And I think even right back then, I knew you were going to succeed.
Okay.
Because you just were like relentlessly in pursuit of this goal.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I thought, well, I'll see if I can help you a little bit.
Well, you did. You helped us not more than a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and continue to help us, which we really, really appreciate.
I mean, for me, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure. Like, that sounds like a cliche, but it's very true.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just really proud to be part of the story here.
Well, and this is the no-take zone right behind us.
Yeah.
And these are the trees. When I got ill, basically, and was doing less diving, I came out of the water. You know, a bit like in the beginning, how things sort of crept out.
Came out of the water. You evolved.
And start planting trees.
Right.
Each tree is somebody who was involved in that whole COAST project.
Yeah.
I've planted probably more than that. But,
wow.
And there's about 100 oaks here.
I mean, that's so telling, isn't it? Like, if you look now at this almost forest behind us, that's quite appropriate, you know, that it took a forest of people to make all of this happen.
And this is how long it takes as well.
Yes. Yeah, planting oak trees is probably quite appropriate, isn't it? You know,
totally.
From these small acorns.
Sure. From that meeting in Carlisle.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember when we came back, Callum and I came back from the Environment Committee, and everybody was like, how did you get on? How did you get on? And I said to them, well, it's not in the bag, but they showed us the bag it's going into.
Right, okay, which is promising. How you doing?
So today, we're very fortunate. We've got Dr Bryce Stewart, who's a long-time collaborator of COAST. So tell us a bit
about me.
About you. I want to know about you. Where do you come from? What have you been doing for the last 20, 30 years?
Okay, yeah, so I'll try and put on my best Aussie accent. Okay. So I am Australian, but I came to the UK in 1999. So before that, I actually grew up in Papua New Guinea, which was quite an interesting place to grow up. And that really inspired me.
So you're not Australian after all?
Well, you know, I think I stayed just long enough to get my citizenship if I wanted it. But no, I am Australian. But growing up in Papua New Guinea, I had the great privilege now, particularly when I look back, of seeing coral reefs that were pristine. I mean, this is in the 1970s and 80s, before there was any coral bleaching. And, you know, the sort of human pressures over there were quite low. So I saw these incredible places, and that inspired me to want to be a marine biologist, basically. Spend my life in these sort of places.
In the tropical places.
Yeah, like Arran. Anyway, you know, so I moved back to Australia, went and did my studies, my degree at the University of Melbourne, and then my PhD up at James Cook University on North Queensland. So that was great. I got to actually go back to coral reefs then, and I worked on the Great Barrier Reef.
Wow.
Had a fantastic time there. Did sort of, I think, about 700 dives or something over 2.5, 3 years. Yeah. But anyway, life works in mysterious ways. So I ended up moving to the Isle of Man in 1999.
Right.
As a new postdoc, just having finished my PhD. And that's where I got introduced to the wonderful world of scallops, because that was my job there, was to basically provide management advice to the Isle of Man government on their scallop fishery, which is the main fishery on the Isle of Man.
Is it, for how long? Was the Isle of Man not a famous heron fishery? Yeah,
I mean, this is, like many places, it's changed over the years. Yeah. So it used to have much more diverse fishery, particularly famous for herring, Manx skippers, as people know.
Yeah, Manx skippers, lochfine skippers. All very famous.
Yeah. But, we've seen, as we have seen in a number of places, this simplification of the ecosystem and of fisheries. And so now, I mean, their scallop fisheries are very well managed, but it is pretty much scallops, crabs and lobsters, and a few whelks. But yeah, so, I was going out on our research boat and then on commercial fishing boats doing these surveys. But on the Isle of Man, we had this protected area called the Port Arran closed area, as it was in the southwest. And it was almost as an aside when I was given the job. My boss, Andy Brand, said, well, we've got this protected area. You could do some work on that. You could study that as well. And then he said to me, I call it a protected area. It's really just a slightly less fished area.
Okay.
And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, there's just rampant illegal fishing. Anyway, long story short, I moved to the Isle of Man and we started doing various surveys, including of this closed area. And actually, by working with the fishing industry, it took a few years, but we managed to convince them that this protected area was a good idea. If we could leave this area alone, scallop numbers would build up and they'd start to breed in high numbers and reseed the surrounding areas. And as that work was coming to fruition, which was sort of in the early 2000s, that's when I met you guys.
Well, yeah, we were delighted to meet you and latterly and Andy Brand as well, because at that point we were in discussions with the College Fishermen Association, and the Isle of Man was it was a bit of light. It was like, okay, this is a potential way forward. To build in support with the fishing industry, which happened up to a point. So that's why we were delighted to meet you. When did we meet you?
I think it was 2004, and it was at a workshop organised by Callum Roberts to bring together anyone with an interest in marine protected areas up in near Stirling, wasn't it? In this sort of quite grand
little house
in the country there.
It was full, to me, Don and Tom Vellaboyle, it was just full of scientists. Doctors and professors. And you've got these three locals arrived.
I think it was quite refreshing for us. All these technical presentations. I know there was some sort of genetic stuff as well. I didn't understand half of that.
I'm glad you did, because it was rather daunting for the three of us. We were kind of in amongst all these academics who initially looked very serious, but actually in the evening, once they had a few glasses of wine,
we did enjoy ourselves. We socialised well. Another important thing about that meeting to point out is there was 19 of us. In the whole of the UK, there were 19 people who wanted to talk about marine protected areas.
There would be more, but these were the really keen.
But if you did that today, I mean, at least 1,000, maybe more, if you had the capacity. It's amazing how it's grown.
I've got pictures of the Stirling.
Oh, have you? I've not seen any pictures of it.
I don't think we have a group photo, but I've got pictures of you. looking incredibly young.
I bet. I'd love to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a mobile phone then. That's how long ago it was.
You didn't? Don't think any of us did.
No, probably not. Yeah. Anyway, or not one with a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I do remember you guys being, refreshing because you were different, but also the thing that sort of caught my attention, and I think of others, was just your sheer enthusiasm for getting a marine protected area of some kind.
We were still fairly naive.
Yeah, 2004. Well, you'd already been on it for like
you'd been on it for a while, but
years.
Yeah, we were learning, and that's in this position that Don and myself and Tom Villa-Boyle and the other members of the committee were in. It was a learning process. We had to kind of understand as much as we could about fisheries, as much as we could about government processes, as much as we could about the media and that. So
there's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn. There is. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
So, spatial management and marine protected areas, where the fisheries spatial management, a bit like the Isle of Man. What is your take? How positive, or is this? Tell me the ups and downs of spatial management. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, yeah, big question. But I mean, look, I am a fan of spatial management for a few different reasons. I think, first of all, if you're managing an area through use of space, you're giving the people who use that some sort of stewardship over it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think here on Arran, I think people are rightly proud of the marine protected area and the no-take zone. And they feel some affinity to it. And I think it's the same with other types of spatial management. So that's important, because if you feel connected, you generally look after it.
Okay.
The other good thing for spatial management, if it's done well, you can give room for different user groups. So here, for example, on Arran, we have a highly protected no-take zone in Lamlash Bay. That's giving room for nature to recover, so we can see what happens when you remove human pressures. But it's still available for, obviously for research, but also for divers, for
leisure,
people interested in, doing wildlife tourism. So you've got space for nature and space for sort of just enjoying it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you've got, outside of the no-take zone, you've got this much bigger South Arran MPA, which mostly allows fishing. I mean, it all allows some kind of fishing.
Except all that allows some form of fishing, except for the no-take zone.
Yeah, but even within that, obviously, there's some areas that are protected fairly highly for things like seagrass and merle, because they're quite sensitive.
Like right,
just out
right
there.
Yeah. 4 kilometers right behind us.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. These sort of very, very diverse areas that support all sorts of other biodiversity. They obviously important as blue carbon habitats for fighting climate change. But this area is also open to low impact levels of fishing. So, creeling for crabs and lobsters, diving for scallops, etc. I mean, even here on the outskirts of the South Arran MPA, you have some areas open to trawling, but under strict conditions about the size of vessels and things like that. So
yeah, I'm not too sure about the strict conditions.
Well, yeah,
but,
okay.
But,
I mean, it might not
it's
please
progress.
Exactly,
it's progress, but yeah.
So I think what you're doing there is, allowing a bit of space for everyone, and that's what's really important. While at the same time looking after nature. That's the idea.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm kind of laughing at there was a problem myself and Donna did with the first podcast.
Right.
The sinking into the sand.
Oh, we are going in, aren't we?
We're going down.
Gosh, and what's more concerning is just mostly at the back. So some point if I end up lying on my back, you might have to help me up.
So Bryce, we've now sorted the seats out. We're not sinking at the moment.
Not for the minute.
But I'm sure it'll happen. So can you tell us a little bit more about both not only the spatial management but some of the research that you've been involved in or supervising?
Yeah, so you know, like I say, originally I met you guys through this workshop back in 2004, and then there was another one in 2006 near Penrith with a lot of the same people. And I think you were on the home straight at that point. You possibly didn't know, but the Lamlash Bay no-take zone came into being a couple of years afterwards.
2008, yeah.
And I remember, you know, when I'd been trying to help as I could, giving a bit of advice, sending, you know, sharing the results from Isle of Man. So we'd been in touch quite regularly, and you know, I think it was in probably some point in 2009. I said, "Oh, so what's happening with the monitoring of the no-take zone? Because we need to know if it's going to work after all this effort." Yeah, and you said, "Well, there's been a sort of little bit of a survey from Marine Scotland, but that's it."
Well, Nature Scott also did some.
Okay.
They were down with. I think it was a contractor that came in and did some surveys, and then the Alban Amara. But I besides yourself, I'd asked Chris Davis.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who was very instrumental in the
Lundy. Wasn't it? Yeah.
What are the questions we should ask, and like what would you? So I had a kind of advice from yourself, advice from Chris. And we were starting to get a bit concerned when we were asking both Nature Scott and Marine Scotland how regular these surveys would be, and they weren't really forthcoming. But it sounded like every 5 years, or 10 years,
which is just it's not adequate.
So it was at that point yourself, with the help of Callum Roberts, but I started thinking, okay, well, so what did you get up to? What did you do?
So you said it'd be great if you could help us monitor it. And fortunately, I had this master student, Lee Howarth, at the time. And, you know, Lee's an interesting character.
He is.
Anyway, well, what I really liked about him was his classmates were all going off to these exotic locations, you know, Hawaii and the Maldives.
Counting turtles, as I say.
You know.
They're all off counting turtles.
You know, manatees and doing whatever. And he went, no, that's not what I want. Some character building field work. I said to him, Lee, how about some diving in Scotland? You know, you could replicate the methods that were used on the Isle of Man to monitor the no-take zone. And he was well up for it. He'd learnt to dive with his dad, and he was super keen. And so we sent him up here in the summer of 2010. And it was just you and him who...
It was myself.
Who did the first proper baseline survey.
Lee that did the dives with a selection of coast volunteers doing the boat cover. The coast kind of sprang into action, and we got a selection of people all go up to the powerboat 2 and then commercially endorsed doing that. It was a great summer. It was an interesting summer. And it was as someone with Don who had done quite a bit of commercial diving, you kind of forget that, you know, Lee was an experienced diver, but there's a difference between an experienced diver and actually going down and actually doing a survey. But what really surprised me, not only just with Lee but other master's students and PhDs that came along, was they're very fast learners. The vast majority are really fast learners. So within 3 or 4 days we were getting our techniques right and much more comfortable. It was a busy summer.
No, I bet. I mean, you know, like you said, it was just off your boat, wasn't it? And relied on, well, there wasn't really any funding for it or anything. But it got done. And what was fantastic, so bearing in mind this is less than 2 years since the no-take zone was established, it was already showing a lot of recovery. And you know, we ended up writing a scientific paper from that first year of Lee's work, because what he found was the algae, particularly, and hydroids that were coming back, were covered in juvenile scallops. And, you know, so we're able to actually show that when you protect an area, you know, yes, of course, with commercial species like scallops and lobsters, you stop them being taken, and therefore they're going to live, you know, become more abundant because they're not being caught, but it's the habitat as well that's so important. So we were able to get that published, and Lee we were able to get funding then for him to convert that into a PhD.
Right.
And so it was brilliant because he basically started the next year. And so he ended up getting 4 years of continuous data, doing these diving surveys, in the no-take zone, but in the areas around it as a control as well.
The only problem with the control was they all ended up being protected.
Well, ultimately, yeah. I mean, it was so successful that it helped with the coast campaign to get the much larger South Arran MPA, which is, I think, it's nearly 100 times the size.
Yeah,
of the no-take
280
zone.
square kilometers.
So it's more. The no-take zone is 2.67, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that meant in due course we had to rethink our survey design.
Yeah.
But the other feature during Lee's time was he then started to bring students to help him, and we had, on one occasion, I think, there was him, and then 3 other students and me.
Yeah.
We were all working for him. Basically.
So we had a whole team from the University of York.
Yeah, and so we expanded from these original dive surveys, just counting things, to taking photos of the seabed, to doing surveys of the crustaceans as well with commercial fishermen, and baited remote underwater video, or BRUVs, to count fish.
And in 2013 we were also joined by Glasgow University.
Yeah, exactly.
So with Sophie Elliott and David Bailey. So all of a sudden,
really expanded
within
in a
like
few years.
4 or 5 years we had.
Yeah, and that work by Sophie was really great stuff, showing again the importance of this habitat and the diversity of habitat for different types of fish, particularly juvenile fish.
Well, to us and a lot of locals, that was, generally in locals, when you'd had a big sea angling community, it's the fish they want to know about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's the fish they want to know about. They're interested in the kind of general biodiversity and scallops and lobsters and stuff. But the fish survey showing that juvenile gadoids, especially cod, preferred or not started to do well because you had more complex seabeds. Was
it's really
to me very interesting.
Absolutely. So, and that's just really continued since then. The challenge always has been money. It's never been a lack of willing, or even students to come and help with the work, but we haven't had money every year.
Well, there has been little bits and pieces of, you would think, being Scotland's no-take zone, you would have ample support and funding from the Scottish government. And really, with the exception of little bits and pieces, that's not really been there. We've had to really, between ourselves and the academics, we really had to kind of fight for funding to keep this going.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's hope that may change.
Yeah, and look, we've somehow managed to do something every year, I think, since then, which is pretty good. Some years a lot, some years not so much. But that long-term data set, I think, is what's also super valuable. So you've got 2 things here. Well, I'm going to put number 1, the community and the community's support for this conservation of the local area. Then you've got the actual, diversity of spatial management measures, which as a scientist is super interesting because you can look at these different approaches and how they affect recovery of commercial species and recovery of the seabed. But then the long-term nature of the data here is also been, so valuable, because what we've seen is things are not, I mean, it shouldn't surprise anyone who's worked in the sea, but things are not straightforward, Yes, some species, generally increase over time, but they go up and down. Some things appear and then they completely disappear, or, like the crinoids, the feather stars.
The feather stars,
Or, another interesting thing is in the no-take zone, we've seen this general increase in lobsters, numbers and size. But in response to that, their competitors, brown crabs in particular, have decreased in that area. And that's basically because the lobsters are the bosses.
They're the bosses, and crabs taste quite good for lobsters.
And I think I've even, you've got some footage underwater of a lobster just chasing a big brown crab away.
Yeah, and I've got footage on video footage underwater of a large lobster chasing a small lobster out of its,
same sort of
the
thing.
small lobster had the nice home under this rock, and the big lobster walks along and sees this nice house home and basically just evicts the little lobster. And the little lobster didn't hang about. I tell you, it did not hang about, because basically if he wasn't going to go, it could be dinner.
Yeah. I mean, a few years ago, during dive surveys in a no-take zone, it was Megan Walmsley who got this picture of this gigantic lobster, over a meter long, just wandering around on the sea. Who's going to take that on, you know?
No, and I think the bigger they get, I think they get more kind of brazen. You know, young lobsters tend to be always under nooks and crannies, and much more nocturnal, coming out at night and this, that. The bigger lobsters, quite often you see just wandering around. They're not bothered.
Well, you know, what's going to happen?
What's going to have them? I mean, even if a seal came down, some of these big lobsters would
probably take
the nose off it, you know.
And the other thing, they're too big to get into creels by that stage, so they're kind of in their element, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that was great to see.
But if you get bigger lobsters and less, are they going to breed better or more?
Well, yeah, this is the thing. So most marine species, you know, the two key commercial species in these protected areas are king scallops and European lobster. And like most species, their egg production increases exponentially with size. So, you know, if you have a lobster, I don't know, let's say the shell length is 9 centimeters, which is just above legal size. And that, say, you know, hypothetically has 1,000 eggs, and then you get another lobster that might be 100 mils, so only a centimetre longer, but that will produce, say, 3,000 eggs.
Wow.
Right? So there's this curve upwards. So protecting these big, older females in particular is really good for the populations, and again, like most marine species, the eggs are fertilized, they hatch, and then they go off into the plankton. Scallops, it's about 3 weeks. Lobsters, it's a lot longer. And in that time, you know, they can spread out a long way. And reseed these surrounding areas that are open to fishing. So this is one of the key sort of motivations for using protected areas, is that you don't just protect what's in them, but also you enhance what's around them.
And motivations for, you know, more no-take zones in Scotland, in the right places, potentially within MPAs or areas, so that they're seeding the surrounding area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for things like, you know, shellfish in particular, it just makes complete sense to me. You know, they don't have to be huge, but they need to be in the right places. And, you know, I think, interestingly, I'm not saying this is always the way forward, but on the Isle of Man, the area that was protected used to be a good fishing ground, you know, back probably decades before. So, you know, we were able to get agreement to have it protected because fishermen said, oh, well, it used to be good, but now it's knackered. So why don't we protect it and see what happens? And, you know, then it's led to this. Now they have a whole network of them around the Isle of Man. It's really great.
Yeah, there's the two other projects that we in COAST Dr Arran have always looked at, and sometimes partnered and find and learn from each other, are the Isle of Man and Lyme Bay.
Yeah, well, Lyme Bay also is really, you know, well studied. I think, we did a sort of work, a paper a few years ago, and looked all around the UK, and it's really just here and Lyme Bay that have been almost continually monitored and are quite well studied enough to be quite conclusive about the benefits. You know, we have statistically significant increases here in scallop density, scallop size, reproductive capacity, same for lobsters, and same particularly in the no-take zone for what's on the seabed. So, you know, cover in general on the seabed compared to an area that's dredged in the north of the island. And also, some interesting work done a few years ago by a student of mine called Amelia Allerton, and looked at the sort of, I'm getting a bit technical here, but the functional role of these different species. So species have different roles in the ecosystem. They might be filter feeders or scavengers, or they might be bioturbators, which basically means they turn over the sediment and they cycle nutrients.
Yeah, right, okay.
And she did this neat study where she looked at the coverage of what was in the no-take zone to this area that's dredged, and just across the board, the functional capacity of what's in the no-take zone was way higher because of that diverse ecosystem.
Yeah, and a little bit like fish and lobsters, as they get largely exponential. Once the seabed starts recovering over 3, 4, 5, 10 years, to me, things that really start happening.
Generally, I've worked on a few protected areas now, particularly Isle of Arran and here, but also through students in other parts of the world. And you often see this. It's sort of a slow recovery at first, and then it really starts to build. It's like a positive feedback loop, basically. Yeah.
So yesterday, both of us were very fortunate to be invited out by Anya and Ewan on the Coast Explorer.
That was brilliant.
When we had a great day with them showing all their new techie gear and all kinds of stuff. So the first thing they did was drop down the ROV. And even myself, who's become known as a bit of a monkey puzzle bryozoan anorak over the years. I mean, these areas that we looked at yesterday, I dived 5-10 years ago, and there wasn't much there. Now they're covered in sea squirts. But anyway, you can describe what you saw, because I'm converted already.
Well, I don't quite know how to describe a monkey puzzle bryozoan, and you'll have to show a picture to the viewers.
We will. We will.
But I guess they're like a sort of coral,
just like miniature little corals.
But bright orange and quite complicated, lots of branches. I mean, I think in those first surveys you and Lee did, I don't remember hearing about any of them.
No, I knew what they were, but I'd only spotted tiny little bits in amongst some boulders.
So and then we started to hear the odd report about them. But yesterday when we sent the ROV down, they're all over the place. Because they're nationally quite rare, aren't they?
Yeah, well, in talking to Professor Joe Porter from Heriot Water, who's like a UK authority on them, who came down to dive with us 6 or 7 years ago, she'd never seen them growing to this size.
Right.
Yesterday, most of the clumps were this size. But we do have 1 or 2 areas that are much bigger clumps, and both Joe Porter and Lynn Baldock, who have dived these areas. They don't know of anywhere else in the UK.
Wow.
This species is in the other places, but just the odd little thing. What's happening here. I mean, I'd like to see it studied much more.
Well, I'll try and get someone to help with that. It's probably a bit not too technical for me, but I like the big picture stuff.
You like this. You like the bivalves.
I love the bivalves, scallops. But I do have room for other things. I'd love to see more work as well done on those kind of species. So interesting why they've recovered so well. But I mean, yesterday I honestly was quite amazed. We're driving this thing across the seabed, and they're just popping up all over the place.
And they are incredibly fragile. They're more fragile than coral.
Right. Okay.
Very brittle.
Fragile.
And just look like a miniature stag's horn coral.
They do. No, that was great. That was cool.
So to round up, is there any other aspects or things you'd like to see?
Anything I'd like to see? I mean, obviously,
See or say.
Lots of funding. I mean, look, there's so much more potential here, because what you've just talked about highlights, our focus, because we've only had so much funding, we've had to focus on these higher profile things like the scallops and lobsters, or just the general biodiversity of the seabed. But you know, there's these individual species that are doing really well. On the fish front, we know that these protected areas are providing a really good nursery habitat, but then what happens next, and how can we actually, you know, try and bring fish back to the Clyde? That would be nice, wouldn't it? You know, more like it used to be. I mean, it's a bigger challenge, but there you go. You know, but other than that, I think it's just, you know, every time I come to Arran, I feel good. I love it here. I mean, I've got a few different homes, but this feels like it's one of them. Right. It's great to have been part of this story. And you know, I just admire what you and Don started, and what
and lots of other people,
and so many other people have worked so hard. And I think, you know, people underestimate the level of perseverance that you need to achieve things in this game. You know I've had my ups and downs and criticism, and you know, or even people who should be supporting me telling me, you know, that's just a hobby you've got going up there. And you know, fortunately times changed. Where I worked at the University of York until a couple of years ago, when we they made a film about this, and we had a sort of big celebration, and the Vice Chancellor poured me a glass of champagne to cheer me for my involvement up here, you know. So things have turned around, but who would have known that going back to our first meeting in 2004, or when you and Don started talking in the early 90s.
There were 19 people at it, you know.
Yeah. But you know, of course, it's not just about the people. People are absolutely vital, but knowing that there is this little oasis out here behind us that is having a chance to recover and show us what the ocean used to look like is great.
The other thing we haven't mentioned is that at least a couple of the students that you've sent up have done like social studies. So
that's
Richard
right.
Bauer and who was the other girl?
Lucy.
Howarth.
Lucy Howarth. I shouldn't forget that surname. She's at the University of Plymouth now. I bumped into her recently. So I mean, I found Lucy Howe's study was really interesting because it was a challenging project. She did it during COVID, but she managed to do these surveys of visitors and residents of Arran, and to gauge their support for the no-take zone and for the MPA in general. And there's many things to pull out of that, but one of the things that I remember is the number of people who said they were proud of being connected living on Arran or visiting Arran because of what it's achieved in marine conservation. And local businesses, even cafes, saying, you know, it's good for my business, basically, because people hear about Arran and Arran Coast and they want to come and see it for themselves. While they're here,
that is really interesting, because many years ago, 15, 20 years ago, myself and I know Joe Totti, who was in our committee, I used to give a yearly talk to the tourist board. And they were all really interested because we all know each other, but very few of them actually got this is good for business. Very few of them. One chap I know very well, he said, this will be good for my business. Where the rest of them, and so a lot of these things take time.
They do.
But now probably, if you talk to most businesses, over 70-80% would say, oh this is.
I mean, how good is that? And who would have expected that?
Yeah. So there you go.
No, it's brilliant. Like, it's, you know, it's just scoring goals on multiple levels.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Bryce. It's
my absolute pleasure.
Great to see you again this week.
Yeah, indeed.
And we hope you return regularly.
I'll be coming back for as long as I can. I promise you that.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.